Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Value of Everything. It has been eventful again. On the Greek side of things again. We appear to have the Prime Minister, or the Minister of Greece, said now in one of those TV audience sort of talks to the people, where he outlines that the deal that he's come back with wasn't what he really wanted. He takes full responsibility. He's very sorry for what has happened. And he had no other choice, or his nation would have fallen into great despair. People would be rioting on the streets. Maybe he didn't mention those parts because that would have been a little bit on the side of weak from a minister. So, what do we make of all of this? Bear with me, just one moment. Right. So, I'd love if the minister did actually come back and say to the citizens, it's time for me to speak the truth. It's time for me to say that everything has been a great lie, and all of your money that we've taken and collected in taxation doesn't exist anymore. In fact, all of that taxation that we've collected, we've used and squandered, and it's been used as collateral to accumulate more debt, and there hasn't been any sort of great investment with anything that we've taken from you. And if you see yourself as an old elderly citizen who's been reliably paying into the system and has been a hard worker all their life and been a good Greek citizen, we're very sorry, but we've betrayed you in every single way. There's literally no money left, to the point that we need to take further money from you. That isn't possible anymore. We cannot extract any further wealth from our citizens without them not surviving or living beyond the means that they cannot even sort of continue at. It cannot go on any further. And even though this is going to be the most painful time in this nation's history for a long time, we need to press the reset button and kickstart the economy from scratch. Now this will be interesting from a left sided minister, but we understand that to ensure that we have wealth generation, government isn't the thing that we need. We require a lot less government, and the starts of a free market, an operation where from the grassroots we can build and start again. So we need to deregularize everything. We need to shut down pretty much every single government ministry that has ever existed. These jobs have gone. We can't pay redundancy. There is no means of doing that. It's all gone. It all needs to start again. You have your friends and family to look after you. And then we have called in humanitarian charities and everything else to ensure that there's sufficient soup kitchens installed into our nations. So we'll have, at least we will not starve. We do not have the means of supporting any major police operation. We do not have any means of protecting our borders. However, we can call to arms and we can defend our own land and property by any means you wish, in the eyes of self-defense. We need to adopt the internet at a rapid pace now, where if the community is under any stress or if there is any uprising by new factions or new mafia or anything in that realm, the democracy of the people need to uprise against that. And when you see the first sign of protection rackets and anything in the form of people extracting wealth from you without your agreement, you need to stamp that out at the earliest means possible and ensure that a government of this size and corruption does not reoccur again. This will be probably the most stressful couple of years of this nation's life, and as history usually shows, at a certain point, the roots of the free market will kick in. Free trade is there instantly. We have means of Bitcoin, which means when you deposit your money into that system, it's not like a bank where they can basically it's not yours any longer and it just gets reaccounted and then lent out further, so it creates credit expansion. That money is yours, so you have that means, you have the means of barter, you have the means of precious metals, and your fundamental skill will be whatever you've learned over these years. This nation does not have any border security any further. I expect more people will leave rather than return. This nation will have to come together in terms of looking after its elderly, and we as communities, we need to look after one another. And that's why the adoption of the internet and how we can kick together and ensure that communities are looked after and ensure that people are watching over each other at all times. And I think we have the best opportunity now than we've ever had to restart. Once again, this is probably very daunting to what you're hearing right now. Roads are not going to be rebuilt. However, roads are going to be sold off now. And all possessions of this nation will be now owned by an individual rather than a governance nation state. So from this point onwards, we are allowing the marketplace to own every item of this nation. Now, ideally, we would prefer people of this nation to own items, but we expect that everybody, that the market is going to purchase all these items, and in return, they'll give us funding to keep things like the life support system, maybe a little bit of military, a little bit of law, courts, a little bit of prisons running in the fire cell of everything, including land and everything else. And it might seem shocking to you, yet I beg your pardon, I'm going to have to cut off. Hi there, back again. Apologies for that. I just had to be breathalyzed on the road. Yeah, so while we're talking about the roads, that is going to be one of those privatized systems. I guess we can fear as a nation state that these things could be monopolized, but in a true free market sense, if somebody monopolizes one area, we can attain a different area. So if somebody monopolizes the roads, people are going to stop using the roads less, and we're going to be using trains and transports more, or aeroplanes. But as most people will be customer driven and profit driven, people would want people to use the roads as much as possible to generate the most revenue. So in the form of free trade, we expect majority of all the products and services to begin again and become a better service than has ever been created before. We believe that we will, if there's certain areas that require protection, we will self-organize, and potentially with the revenue of maybe stratas and community taxation and things like not necessarily taxation, but on a voluntary level, chipping in to purchase security and maintenance and garbage collection, you will have better services provided than ever before. Also, now that there is no more regulation or red tape anymore, which means anybody can start a business and start it from scratch and has no taxation. They literally can just take every single penny that they have and put it directly into their pocket without even writing an accounting journal and visiting the taxman now, because the taxman does not exist anymore. We project that with the sale of the nation's assets to its citizens and everyone and international markets, we foresee that by, and this will be some kind of predicted year, we will no longer be able to support the life support of the nation state, and it will be fully run into the system will be connected directly into a true free market nation. There will be a refocus on prevention rather than reaction. And we expect that the preventative measures, by no longer having things like a war on drugs, a war on a border to protect, and all those items, that we will be far greater and richer as people. This Greece nation was once mighty, and it will become mighty once again. And then we will uprise. So just remember, you can start from scratch. You have no taxation, no problems, no barriers to entry. You can become a doctor tomorrow, but obviously your own self-accreditation is required. The marketplace will need to provide for its own regulator, so we can have multiple regulators. A business can start up as its own self-regulator, so that there isn't an issue for monopolies and ill practices and issues like that. If you think of a mobile network being run on, people use the same mobile network for multiple areas and multiple aerial poles around the nation. People can use that system to adopt the roads, the military, the civil protection. We can use all of those things. But the most important thing is that we cannot have another uprising of people that extract wealth by the rule of force. This nation will re-emerge as one of the strongest nations of all time. The Eurozone has given up on us. There is no currency now. There is no means to extract wealth from us now. There is no real benefit of invading us as we're individuals, and there is no tax to collect from us. We keep as our military the basics for the meantime, so that our borders are protected, and we hope that schemes will be run and ensure that our nation, with our open borders now, will improve ties. We have to obviously remain to have a little bit of border security for the initial time, so that we do not have a massive immigration into this nation of refugees. But I expect that, seeing that the Greek nation means that once you arrive here, there is no major benefit of being here in terms of earning tax, earning benefits. Other than the ability to be very close to the European borders, that is the only sort of benefit that you can actually perceive. There is sort of no sort of benefit. If you come to this land mass now, you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to work hard in a pure competitive free market stance. People now have to come together. People have to be supportive of one another. This nation is not for the loner anymore who sits in his room. This nation is for the man of everybody who looks after everyone and gets that in return. There is no free lunches in this country. There is no free handouts. You will not make yourself of anything if you try to rip off or scheme. There is no incentive of doing that now, or run to the states to pass regulatory laws so that you can get better leeway on certain issues. There is the people at the whole, and the power is with the people now. particularly when it comes to now that everybody now has full capacity to purchase their own weaponry as well and have their own self-protection. So it's going to be hard at first. We need to use the systems of the internet more than ever. We are the age of the internet, and there is many applications, Bitcoin being one of the fundamental ones, which can help and support us. We've got one of the greatest sort of shipping sectors in the world due to its low tax system. We're now going to have multiple areas or business sectors which are going to emerge from this nation in a very short space of time. People of high quality, maybe not initially, but once they perceive the fact that they can come now to a country where they can have pure freedom and live without any taxation and have full capacity to invent and create and further the good for mankind, will come here in their droves. And whilst other nations continue to struggle within their own debt spiral, you will notice that we continue, and we will only exponentially rise, for there is no leech which remains on our people anymore. I do apologise sincerely for the elderly. They have now potentially the greatest struggle. As I said, the fire sale of all the assets will try and ensure that this is going on for as long as possible. But as we make an estimate of predictions and everything like that, we would say that this certain age is required to, at the very least, do some hard work and make some savings, due to the fact that there will no longer be any more money at this point in time. So either you're going to have very strong bonds with your family, or you're going to have to save an incredible amount of money, but you're on your own. There will be charity networks out there, and the other thing about elderly care is that we're going to kick in the free market as well. So, like never before, we can establish the fastest builds of elderly care homes. We can establish cheap work. We could establish high levels of automation and production to ensure that the best comfort has ever been made, rather than having a tax system which has high regulations. We will kick that off, and there will be a marketplace that serves to every level of your means. That is the major concern. The youth has the most scary and the most exciting prospects that anyone has ever seen before. Instantly, as the businesses, and particularly the large mega corporations, because now no longer we have no corporations to exist. People now are the individual owners you will find that small grassroots businesses can be created much faster pace and be far more greatly competitive against the larger corporations. New industries can be expanded out of nowhere. Your mind has infinite ideas and possibilities, and there will be an unveilment of opportunities which will occur where you'll notice that things are missing, and now it's your time to stand up and fill that void and produce value for one another so that you can extract your own wealth for yourself. There's no barriers to entry now. Anybody can enter into any industry that they choose, based upon your skills and your abilities to do that job. There will be obviously more people out there that can abuse the system. We hope that there's more free market agencies which check the quality of the work which is created, and we always recommend that you stick with those. But as I said, there will be a marketplace for every level of means, and you'll be amazed at what can be done. So that's pretty much the speech. I apologise for the police stop halfway through there. I was just trawling through my mind of the infinite possibilities of what could be said and what can be said, and maybe I don't know how the Greek people would react to that. Firstly, with shock and horror, because I guess you're going to go, okay, my gosh, what on earth are we going to do? We're going to be like, we're going to be thrown into a system of chaos and uncontrol, and there's going to be rioting on the streets, and there is nobody to look after nobody anymore, and we are totally stuffed. So you can foresee that level of chaos being created. We sorry, I just had to add a little bit of water. I was getting dehydrated there. You would have the people's reaction going crazy at first. Maybe they'll be rioting on the streets. Maybe there'll be smashed windows. Maybe, because basically the nation's been betrayed and stolen from, and even though there'll be like people like screaming and trying to get sort of like some kind of like justice for what had happened. They know that eventually it's frivolous, and the problem is that it all depends on how far that would go. So I guess that's another point that that they could make, is that they say that all of these offices now are vacant. Oh my gosh! Imagine the politicians saying that we're vacating the offices. Maybe that would be probably the wisest move, and because the actual central planners are going to be purchased by the market itself as well. Imagine that. How scary that would be. Yeah, there'll be no. But the problem would be is that if you entered into a market over there would be no means that you could operate like a corporation. You would have to be the owner of everything that you do there. So you'd have all those kind of means. They would have to say, like, we cannot allow our nation's assets to be blown up or destroyed. So, like the parliament and all those kind of things. If once you destroy that parliament, we have less money to fund our elderly. So even though you're destroying our assets, that is what's going to sustain us into the future as we go over a massive turnover of this nation, and a massive conversion of this nation. So these assets will, even though you feel that you're getting something in return, that is destructive of itself. So you got the shops and everything else. So with riots, you've got looting and all those kind of things. So the major shopping centres are going to be rioted. So you've got to think to yourself in that respect. You've got to say that we're all individuals and people of this land, and even though if you're going to destroy and smash up all of our shops and stuff like that, this is if you're knocking out the only thing that's actually ever productive of our nation is the exchange of goods and value, then you are destroying the land and everything that you have as in a capacity to thrive and survive. So just don't cut off your leg and start to eat it. It's not worth it. Things will re-emerge, and as I say, I guess the minister would have to just focus on the opportunity at all times throughout the speech. That interesting point which I mentioned about the unveiling of opportunities which will emerge from the destruction of the corporation and the regulations to barriers to entry now will re-emerge, and you get people selling food on the streets. You get people that can build shelters and build houses from parts where they didn't have when they didn't need to at the time. The land would be like the land values would just crash at that point. I would expect, because everything would be up for sale, and usually governments own a good quantity of land in itself anyway. So, hey ho for the youth, because then they'll be able to purchase properties. They could start families. They can re-emerge as one again. Yeah, interesting topic about the open borders and stuff. I guess it'll be good that you can obviously come into anybody can come into Europe and stuff like that, and obviously there is no major benefit of you being there. You're going to starve if you arrive and you expect to get benefits, because there's literally nothing in the boat. Everyone's struggling for themselves to go there, so you're just going into a chaotic world in itself. So that wouldn't be very beneficial, but I guess you'd like a refugee or something like that would have to see it like this, that they would say, okay, well, if I get to Greece, I can get closer to the European Union. If I take my supplies, if I can steal, if I can do all of those kind of things, and mug people, then I might be able to get to the border of of Greece and have some means of entry into the European Union. So, interesting sort of element there. I would expect that I would hope that sort of like the self-organization and the free market, and maybe just some kind of remnants of border security in the first place will prevent that. But I guess the major preventative measure is that you're on your own when you're into that country. You've got to survive for yourself. You've got to you've got to trade instantly and produce goods. But I expect that this, like, even though you might have that very initial thing, I think there'll be a humongous amount of job opportunities occurred. Maybe not in the the first few, like the 6 months or something like that, but the exponential rise of job opportunities will just kick in a tremendous way. Definitely by like the first, maybe the first or the second year, you're going to go. People are just going to be saying, "Okay, we need this job, we need this help, we need that." There's so many marketplaces, and there's no regulatory strangleholds that you can just walk into a market, offer your services, and then, hey presto, you've got services to provide, and you literally there's no barriers to anything that you're doing. You can work and earn tax free and things like that. So if somebody chooses to come to Greece, and the mindset you would hope of the people that would arrive there would be the ones who choose to work very hard in a very like tax-free system where they have got themselves to look out for and all those kind of things. So you would hope probably the strongest willed people from you got to expect like they will be like the poorest nations in the world, maybe like Africa, but at least it will be the strongest willed people in the world that would have some kind of indication that this nation doesn't have any governance in place. Maybe they might be aware of places like Somalia and stuff like that. Maybe they'll be a bit too scared to sort of get involved in kind of that system. But if they think to themselves, okay, well, I'm going to Europe, but this ain't real Europe. Hopefully, they would have an idea that this doesn't have a government state. You do not have any beneficial systems from being there. Maybe once people realise there's a hell of a lot of money to be made being in Greece, it might have this sort of American effect on the European, like in Europe, where you had or the masses of immigration which went to America to start afresh and all those kind of things, and there was zero tax system as well there. But obviously, Greece as a nation couldn't really support everybody that ever arrived there. But it'd be a very interesting time. You'd literally you'd have a marketplace, and you would have a lot of trade and interesting people that would arrive, and tourism would shoot up like no tomorrow. And you once there was an element of what kind of safety was in place, I guess there would be certain areas which wouldn't be helpful and stuff like that. You got to so. In that sort of circumstance, you've got like the country, and you've got the city places. Now, I'd expect the country that they very rarely have any sort of police presence in those areas, and they usually are armed anyway. And they're probably not going to get much of an issue anyway. They've got probably good, strong community bonds. It works out pretty well from the start. They're quite asset rich, and they will find themselves in a very sweet spot probably initially, in terms of having plenty of resources to sell and items like that. I guess there was a mass immigration during the like a mass search for work in the 1930s in America, when the economic disruption happened, and obviously people were coming out for doing farm work and farm labour and things like that. If you're trading on the market on Bitcoin and you're selling all your goods via Bitcoin, you can sell it for a little bit cheaper. There's no taxation involved. You can sell to international markets. You can expand your production of farmed goods and things like that. You may require further people. So you can definitely mass create a lot more sort of in the realms of production in that sense. The cities is an interesting part because you do have in a city you've got like your financial industries, which are very corporate and very sort of connected to the regulations and things like that. So in the city, obviously you've got the usually the highest intelligent people and all those kind of things built up in that area. However, you might have a lot of brain drain where people are flighted away from Greece and stuff like that. But you're going to have majority of the more the more learned people in the city. So you've got like your major city industries are going to be your banking industries, your retail industries. The ones that need to be sort of next to the commerce and the trading of things, and the major so the major businesses branches there and stuff from that respect. I guess cities are going to be a very sort of interesting spot because you do have in the cities you're going to have like that mass point where people are going to be desperate to find work, desperate to get food, desperate to sustain themselves in some way. Then I potentially predict that there'll be some kind of like little migration from cities into rural areas, because then you have at least the guarantee of sustenance, and you have potential the guarantee of shelter as well. So there is that sort of factor, and you may have that sort of hollowed out sort of cities where everything is like a shell of its own self beforehand. However, if you do have this humongous migration out of the city, you do have still like a city is usually like all the transport links is just directly connected right into a city location. Everybody can easily access that point and area. There'll be airports, roads, railways, all vested into that point, which means that there is many channels of distribution. There's many channels of getting good labour and highly a high-skilled labour as well. So you're going to get these young entrepreneur types walking into these humongous sort of half-derelict offices with a couple of drips going down them, maybe like something in the way of like a Blade Runner sort of thing. But that sounds pretty cool. Hopefully, you're not got like loads of gangs and drugs going around there, but there isn't the war on drugs going on. So I guess unless there's somebody that's trying to cause some kind of harm against other people, which I hope there'll be applications on phones where people can start fighting people off. There's any sort of uprising or people are trying to extract wealth off of anybody, that sort of occurs pretty rapidly, and maybe the business district starts to create their own little support network, and eventually buys some kind of security measures, and that security measure won't be the rule of force, but more of a preventative measure. Maybe the answer to the depredation and the problems of desperation and stealing and things like that might be answered with just giving some people just an opportunity with maybe just helping out the offices and creating small jobs for them and building from scratch again. So the city does have that sort of it's going to have the hardest hit. It's going to be the hardest hit, but then it will have the hardest return as well, because once all these young professionals or young sort of open mind people that are going to come into these derelict buildings and start from scratch again and own these buildings and take ownership and think of new ideas to provide goods and services to people to improve the betterment of their nation. So everyone's been handed with the rule of governance in some way where they can improve the lives of other people. And these I expect these characters to be very inspirational and be very hard-working and really grind and do things that are amazing maybe in the city of Athens and things like that. So you could have amazing sort of industries. You could think of obviously you would think about the high-tech industries instantly, where you get computer programmers and the computer geeks kick it in. And as I said, if the president's probably going to be keying on to say or the minister's going to be saying, hey, we need to adopt this internet thing straight away if we're going to try and do it alone and try and do it off our own backs. So these little key startup businesses will be the first emergence of things. So they're going to be an amazing opportunity as well, in the sense that if you do have nation states and sovereign debt crises around the world, and countries fail, and there'll be massive situations where you have a domino effect of people not being able to pay for their country's debts, and because they're just in excessive amounts and they cannot pay it off any further. The guys in Greece that have worked out all these great systems to kick off a free market from scratch again, these guys are going to go international straight away. They're going to be like, right, we've got all the systems in place, we've got all the technical expertise, we can fly in all these guys and girls tomorrow, and we know how to. We literally know how. We've got the package installed. We just need to get these people on the ground. We need to speak to these people. We know all the mistakes that have been made before, and we know what works. And these guys are going to literally just become international playboys, because they know how to kick off a system of a free market within a rapid amount of time, and literally save people's lives and save people. So not only are the youth of Greece potentially could just come in and they go through the hardships, but then they learn, and they could be humanitarians and be a force for good around the world, literally just revolutionizing things in the way that they have learned things themselves, and pass on that sort of that ability and power. So through darkness and despair and stuff like that, you could have the most ridiculous potential of a re-emergence. And it would be a sight to behold. And you're looking at sort of you're looking at the birth of the old world and the new world sort of starting over again, where you have the world of governance and multiple debts and all those kind of things falling on its own its own mistakes and greed and the human nature of promising too much and not being able to keep up with those promises and all those kind of things, to a new form of of free markets and voluntarism and an ability for people to sort of be more responsible for their lives and have fantastic opportunities, and the ability for like no more wasted youths, and just people which have been highly intelligent and have just been wasted away. All of that can be crushed basically in a matter of no time. And you will have a whole different world to look at. So yeah, there you have it. You're gonna have interesting times. But so yeah, so in that sense, you from every sort of dark place, there's a new opportunity. Things are never totally squandered, and things are never over, and the death of a nation state is never really the death. Well, not necessarily, I'm not talking about like the nation state, but I'm just talking about like of sort of a general sort of concept of society and people working with each other and stuff like that is never destroyed. People, the government, if that disappears, the government kicks in again. Well, not the government, but the people self-organize again, but hopefully it doesn't happen in the way of a sort of a chaotic sort of style where you get the mafia kicking in and stuff like that, and protection rackets. But you get the re-emergence of those young entrepreneurs who want to start afresh, who want to do good, those heavily motivated people that want to do change and change the world, all those people that have got all that power and inspiration inside them to do something to this world and make it a better place. They'll be empowered once again, and they will carry us into a beautiful future. Not obviously, I'm idealizing a lot of these things, and it's not necessarily like it's going to be some kind of like cakewalk by any means. There's going to be thousands of mistakes that are going to be made. There's going to be corrupt people. There are corrupt people in this world. You can't avoid them. They do exist, and it's up to us to now be more responsible and to use our wits and not sort of run to somebody else when there is a problem. We need to now be switched on and do what's best. I have found myself a really awkward junction to get out of now, which is fantastic. Yeah, that was fairly long talk by me. I apologise again for the police stop. There's not really in my hands. Maybe in a free market that would still exist, because I guess you couldn't really get loads of drunk people going around a on a road and create chaos and all those kind of things. So it's totally valid. No problems with the police. They do need to get people that are intoxicated off the road because it's dangerous for all of us. And yeah, good on them. It's a bit annoying that you have to get pulled over, but that's a little bit nervous as well. But the way things go sometimes. Just got to be understanding of what goes on there. Alright, got out of that junction, which was nice. So, yeah, anything else I can summarise? So, just those thoughts are amazing, or sort of rings bells with me anyway. I just thought that you got to just sort of like look at that youth, the youth, and the re-emergence of the youth, and the because I think like Greece has got like ridiculous amounts of unemployed and all that kind of stuff, and there's literally there's no jobs, and there's nothing that they can start on or start with that can get them running again. And everything's sort of like this mass state sort of system where they have all of these barriers where they can't enter into the system. That obviously you've got like these cushy government jobs which they can't get hold of, and the government jobs don't really, they're just administrations, whatever they're trying to do. They're not necessarily the most efficient forms of creating value for people. So that's not necessarily like a great prospects for them now, but imagine the re-emergence of something. The problem, the hopeful thing is that mind hasn't been sort of shut down and switched off for so long that there's no return now, and we're just in a state of a lot of corrupted minds and minds that have given up and no longer have any more will. You'd hope that that spark, that inspiration, that maybe that sort of like that push to the wall, sometimes that feeling where I've had enough and all that kind of stuff, that maybe that hunger in the belly, that kicks off the spark of the mind and can get you running to pursue good and create good, and the unveiling of the opportunity to do good in the world will be immense, and hopefully it sort of takes people in a grip. And I really hope that people don't necessarily just go, okay, well, I'm giving up on the world, I can't do this and all this kind of stuff, and give up. I think in some ways that there isn't the choice to give up anymore. You really, now it's the point of survival now. So I do hope that you have this opportunity where people take it and grasp it, and don't think that they're not capable of doing anything either. Just like nobody's super successful and done anything where they knew everything beforehand. Everybody's come from zero at some point where they've literally just had to learn to walk and talk and everything else before. You can surely do that at any stage of your life, and you can do that again now, and it will be incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, youth of today, you will uprise and you will re-emerge, and you will be rewarded with your efforts. It's going to be painful. It's going to be hard. You're going to be working for nothing. It's all of that rubbish, which are all just tests that are thrown at you. But eventually, something will come out of the work and effort that you put forward. Just by the pure failures and the learning and everything else that occurs on the way, there is always that moment where the eureka happens and you can create something. All the ideas are already out there. You just need to take it from the branches of opportunity. You've got the internet there. You've got like just endless methods to create and inspire and to help people improve their lives. So get onto it, and just remember as well is the first ones onto it usually do much better than the ones that catch up there a little bit later. You think of all of the internet startups in the world, and they'll be the first ones in the block, like your Amazons and stuff like that, and your eBays. And hey presto, you've got this humongous business where you probably own a few islands of Greece itself after a while. So, and you don't have to be some sort of monopoly man twiddling his moustache, leader of the IMF sort of thing. So, hey ho, you will remerge. You will reap the rewards, but you've got a whole shitstorm to go through first, and you'll do it. If you can handle going through the problems with Greece, you can do anything else as well, and you'll probably be able to deal with it, like going to all the other countries and help them out as well. Anyway, it's been a interesting conversation as always. My little monologues. Apologies for the pauses and the arms. I'm really trying to keep them down to a low level, but it's a little bit of a click of mine. Working on it. I do apologise. Sorry for the pauses. My mind sometimes gets distracted when the drive gets a little bit complicated. But I hope things will gradually improve, and I hope my ideas have been inspirational, or at least given you some kind of things to work with. And I'll see you next time. Anyway, thank you very much. Goodbye.